Good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, no matter what time of day it is for you. We're on the East Coast of the United States, so it is good afternoon on our side. And if you're other parts of the world, hey, it's good morning, it's good afternoon, good evening. And if you're watching us on the replay, it could be whatever time of day you pick out is right for you. So I want to welcome you to this week's episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. And our show is sponsored each and every week by the CVC Success Group. And usually there are three of us here, myself, Sheryl Eisenhower, and Brandi Biswell. But Brandi had another function today. Right now, to my understanding, Brandi is out playing frisbee golf right now with the crew at Blues Brothers as they're having a day away. So anyway, we got a really interesting presentation for you today. And if you're in the service industry, it's something that you may want to really take a look at. And we got a great guest today with us that's going to explain how this works, why he went into it, and what the results are he's getting from this. So Sheryl, what would you say about today's episode?
Well, I think each of us need different methods or tools in our toolbox, and flat rate pricing seems to be one of them for a lot of service companies. So I think if everybody will listen today and get some ideas, it may be something that works for them.
Correct. Now, this process has been called flat rate pricing. It was developed some years ago in the plumbing industry, and then from there it went into the HVAC industry. And our guest today is both an HVAC contractor and he also is in the chimney service industry. His name is Richard Tattershall, and I've worked with Richard for quite a few years now. He's located near Tulsa, Oklahoma, and like I said, has a growing, thriving business, very, very successful. He believes in training his people. He's also very much into his numbers, and he also buys the tools that the company needs in order to move to the next level. One other thing about Richard is very dedicated to building the systems in his business that he knows will work for him and in training his crews not only for these new systems, but how to do the best job they can for their client base. They're in Skiatook, Oklahoma, which is very near Tulsa, Oklahoma. So we're going to play our intro music, be right back with you, and we'll have Richard on camera with us when we come back. And we really appreciate you being here with us today. It's an honor, it's a privilege, and it's a pleasure to be able to speak to you in this manner each and every week. So, Richard, it's good morning for you because you're in the central time zone. We're sitting here in the eastern time zone. So I want to welcome you here to joining us today. And what we're going to talk about your what I call menu pricing, but what has been known as flat rate pricing, and how you've worked with a company called the New Flat Rate Pricing Company to develop a system that works for you. So let's start off a little bit. Let's tell our listeners a little bit about Richard. Tell them about your family, if you would, how long you've been in business, and what your goals are in this business.
Yeah, thanks for having me too, Jerry and Sheryl. Y'all heard Jerry. My name is Richard Tattershall. I have CNC Chimney and Air Services. CNC, just a quick story, how it started was I was working somewhere and decided to start working for myself and better prepare for my future. And honestly, CNC stands for my wife and daughter, which is Chas and Cherish. I started it because of them. I'm a big family guy. Jerry knows I take my family with me everywhere. Can't think of many conventions I've not been without them. But that's how I am here too at work. I treat everybody like their family, even the workers, and I just love to see them grow. I've got some guys that have been with me before they married, before they had kids, and it's just awesome just to see them blossom up and grow in that avenue. And needless to say, I did start as a chimney and air duct cleaning. I do air duct cleaning. I started out 16 years ago, so this will be our 17th year into this service. And then I, about 10 years ago, decided I wanted to get into HVAC, like Jerry said, and went to heating and air school. Done that for over a year. and started doing that myself, and it's been real great, and that's kind of in a nutshell kind of how CNC kind of went, and we've grown a pretty good amount in the past 5 years, and just thankful and blessed beyond my years. So that's just kind of how in a nutshell that we started. And I am just became a master chimney sweep, so I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to be that first person in Oklahoma to have that. And I do have qualifications in other parts, NADCA, which is the National Air Duct Cleaners Association, so I'm an air duct specialist, and also mechanical contractor, like you hear. And mason, we love doing masonry work and everything all of our own. And I've just taken a different position that Jerry's asked me to take for a long time. So I've kind of taken more of a general management type role instead of being in that truck. So that's a little bit in a nutshell about me.
That's it. So I'm going to bring up some slides. We got some pictures we want to show you with you today about what we're doing here that'll help explain this whole thing. So what we're looking at right here, this is a little bit about Richard, and Richard uses Service Titan. And the remarkable thing about Richard was he is the implementer of Service Titan in his company. He is the person that probably has a really deep, I hate to say it this way, but a real big geek side to him, that he can understand software, he can understand modern tooling, he can understand a lot of things that a lot of people don't know. So as you're looking at here, you can see that the biggest thing is Richard spreads himself so thin. He works way too many hours. He has a home office and he works a lot at night on projects. And part of that was developing up this menu pricing, this flat rate pricing schedule from your side. So Sheryl, let's start out with the first question from you today. This is probably something that you're not all that familiar about. So what would you want to know about menu pricing or flat rate pricing from Richard as far as what this does for him?
Well, Richard, what I'd like to see, I'd like for you to explain, because a lot of people out there do not have a clue what this type pricing is. A lot do, but if you could just explain it for those that can't, it'll help me as a refresher. I have seen your course presented once before, and I was totally interested. So please share it with others.
Yeah, that is a great question, Sheryl. And honestly, what flat rate pricing, just to paraphrase it, what it does is what I always tell customers, it lets them be put in the driver's seat to choose what would be the best option to get that necessary type of repair or project done. And, we've all done it before, to where we went to a customer's house and we just have one option and a customer's just like, oh my, wow. So, it really helps in that, and it gives a dynamic view for a customer to where they can actually have certain or different areas that were a concern, to where we can actually, basically put that within the realm of that option and take care of it. And it really works beneficial for us. And, it started out, we started out using it great in the HVAC side. And like Jerry said, it took me about a year and a half to develop everything, because it's never been made this way before in the chimney industry, really. So I had to build it from scratch with Matt at the new flat rate, and it worked out great. It was a long time coming, but I wanted to make sure to get everything just situated so that we can roll out with it and actually be successful with it.
Right. And, I knew about this flat rate pricing thing back in the 80s and 90s. There was a guy in the plumbing industry, and Rich, I don't know if you know this or not, but his name was Frank Blau. And Frank Blau was this was the person that had the original concept of flat rate pricing. And he introduced it into the plumbing industry, and actually had a local plumber that was a friend of mine, Tracy Chris. And Tracy come over one day into my office and talking about this, and how flat rate pricing was the future. And back at that many years ago, Jeremy Bilswold even came to me and said, Jerry, one of the things that you need to develop at CBC is a flat rate pricing program for the chimney industry to use. And it's one of those things that takes a lot of work to put this together. But for you as the contractor, as the selling contractor, Tell me what the advantage is for Richard and his guys to use flat rate pricing instead of having to look up and write proposals out.
Yeah, that that was one of the deciding factors, honestly, Jerry, because how many times have your guys went out and done an inspection and wasn't able to give a customer a price on the spot, and then they just pile up, don't they? My
Yes,
wife would always come in the office and say, Richard, that's just money just sitting there, because guys don't do good at following up or going over with stuff. It's just the truth. So, and all we did was, before this, we would have customers keep calling and keep calling. And over time, they would quit calling because they got so dissatisfied with not having an estimate right then and there on the spot. And because with chimneys, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You know what I'm talking about, Jerry. You'll come into something that you'll just be never see, in that. So it really helps with structuring that, and to where we have the capability to give a customer the options right on the spot, like literally give them. And we're still building more options within our menu pricing app, and it works real fluid. And we got a lot of guys really that are poor communicators. They just tend to not be able to communicate real effectively with the customer, and that's what prevents them from being a lead technician a lot of times, because anybody you could train up and do the work and get them in the truck respectively in a well-timed manner. But that was the defining factor that really caused us to be able to not have a technician run his own truck, was because he didn't feel comfortable presenting real effectively. If you get what I'm saying, Jerry.
right. Chuck Roadhouse made an excellent comment here. I'm going to read this out. Flat rate pricing is a great way to transparently do business. The key is knowing all the numbers required, the labor hours per person, and the cost of goods. I presume is what you're talking about there, Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
To create the formula or the recipe to obtain consistent profit and efficiency. If you do not use this system, start now. Get help if needed. I used flat rate pricing since 1996 and was always profitable. And also in our own business, we developed in my service business and in our retail business, we were actually using flat rate pricing many years ago. Now, it wasn't as highly refined as what you have in your system today, because the way you have done this really has some keys advantages to both you and your employees and to your customers. So, Sheryl, do you want to take the next question?
Well, okay. Why would somebody choose this way as opposed? I can see some of what you and Chuck are saying, but if you had to make a good argument as to why would this be the choice, what would you tell people?
Yeah, so I would say that it really helps with communication with the customer, just like this slide that's coming up right now, because it's true. 80% are poor communicators and they don't like sales. I don't know how many guys I've had come to me and said, man, can I just work on the install crew and just do installs? I don't like sales at all. And what that does is exactly what the next line says. It's a simple process. So that is why I really wanted to help to develop this and make it where other people that work within me and other companies would want to be taking that next role, to be going out running their truck, being a chimney sweep / sales guy consultant, and it's worked great with that, because I had a lot of my guys would just want to stay on installs, because that was just the biggest issue for them. That was the why factor, was because they just got so uncomfortable presenting to customers. We have presentation scripts now. They're all structured and what they're actually presenting with. And they always ask, what should we do with the customer? And the customer sometimes does have questions, but it has it within the body of the work to what we're doing with each option on the technician side that we will go over later. But that's the biggest why factor, honestly, Sheryl, was that I got more people bought in, because in the beginning they weren't. And I still remember when we went to Jerry in Anderson's Chimney in Pennsylvania, and one of my technicians been with me 3 months, maybe 4 months. He got up and told everybody, "Hey, I I really didn't know about it either, but when I presented the first time to the customer after being here 3 months, I was able to make sales that I would not be able to make if I just went on my own trying to educate myself and just do on the fly." So that's one of the things that's been beneficial, Cheryl.
Thank
Right.
you.
And to back up what Richard's saying, I interact with technicians all across the country through our coaching, through our training. And what he just said is key. A lot of technicians really do not want to be salespeople. They actually, when you say the word sales, in their minds, they are envisioning a guy wearing a plaid sport coat, smoking a big cigar, wearing a big old, heavy watch, some rings and chains around his neck, and sucking somebody into the nearest used car lot. That is the connotation that many technicians have. So part of this system, Richard, I think that is so impressive is when you're showing this to your customer, this guy with only 2-3 months experience, like you were just talking about, he actually has a script on his iPad that he is following that is not what the customer sees. Am I correct in what I just said?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's a script that the guys don't have to read it much now, because once you do it so many times, it kind of comes second nature. But in the very beginning, it's good to have. It's a peace of mind. It's right in your hip pocket to where you can just read from it if you wanted. And over time, it's really effective. With how we use that specific script.
Right. And what you've also done, and like we see on the screen right now, you have accumulated what the customer objections are. You have accumulated the data on why customers will say no. So, what you've done, instead of having to get this embedded into people's heads, I'm going to call it a cheat sheet even. They have a reference point at the job site that they're looking at in order to talk to the customer in a way that the customer understands. And Sheryl, I'm going to go back to you. How important is that for the seller, the technician who's selling, to actually understand how to properly speak to that customer to keep them from going into anxiety as they're having this conversation?
Well, I'm a behavior analysis person also. So the thing about it is the different types of behaviors hear differently and they react differently. So if you go to certain customers and you can talk them out of a sale because they don't want that much of a knowledge. You need to know that. On the other hand, you have other customers that need all the knowledge. So you need to be able to look at these people within just a very, very short time and find out where you would put them. And I think Richard's seen that more as the years have gone on. How this helps is to know you can use the DISC or a lot of other personality assessments, but to understand number one yourself so you can understand other people. You can look at the way someone talks, the way their body language is, just the way they react to you in the first couple questions will lead or should lead a salesman into his sales presentation.
Right. So, Richard, on
Yeah.
the screen, it says right now, what's the fix? Get rid of the objections so the 80% can succeed 90% plus. Tell us what that slide means. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, that I wanted to add to Cheryl's question, and that is one thing that we do is if we got a high D person, we can kind of tell when we first kind of come in the house, or an S or a C. We know how we're going to actually go with that presentation and how we're going to be more descriptive or not, depending on what type of person we actually have. And there was a class I took a long time ago. It was by Hope Stevenson. It was how to read body language, and it was at the convention. I don't even know, probably over 10 years ago. And that changed me a lot in the way how I present to customers, because the first couple minutes I listen, I understand, I evaluate my customer, and that's what I train the guys to do too, so that they could understand how to, when we get to that presentation, it will really help what you're saying, Jerry, where it'll get rid of the objections of that 80% that have objections. Because with a high D person like you and Sheryl, honestly, well, we'll give you the options, and y'all don't need all that, let me know, let me just choose what I need to choose. And then if it's an option that you want to get, you'll be able to just choose that. Some of them choose them within a minute and a half or less, Jerry, sometimes 30 seconds. And we do ask them, are you sure? What do you like about that option? And things like that. And some people with high Ds, they just want it done. They want it fixed. And when you have a high S or high C, you know what I mean? It will be what is in this option compared to this option. And we'll be able to go over that in detail. And that's what happens to where we can succeed up to that 90% or more, because we're able to, observe in the very beginning during our observation and discovery with the customer how we need to present. Does that make sense, Jerry?
Makes complete sense. So, and also, so people are aware, you've incorporated this entire process into your HVAC business. You've incorporated it into your air duct cleaning operations, and you've incorporated it into your chimney repair and even your fireplace changeout sales. All of these, you're working all the time to incorporate more and more of the products and services that you're selling. So would you say using the flat rate system has built your closure rate and you close more jobs today than you did prior to using it?
Yes, I totally agree. And what it's helped too is our margins are at least 25 to 30% more. And it's really helped out, honestly, in all the other services. Like, we're even working with the dryer vent cleaning now, where we're actually going to have that all done here shortly. But I was amazed at even the air duct cleaning, to where we're actually doing air duct cleaning and we're giving options, because most people, when they called, they just needed their air ducts cleaning. But we would just go and clean them, and they might need other things done than that, and we wasn't even offering them. So with having options, that's what helps a lot. You're giving a lot more of what you just have on there, of a verbal package to the customer. And we're not naming any of the parts. We're not going out there saying, hey, we're going to crown coat, we're going to flash seal, we're going to do this. And it helps to prevent that customer from going on Google as you're doing your inspection, whatever, searching all this stuff. It's really, really helped with that. And customers, when they get bought in with you as a person, as an employee, that the second part that comes, will really, what is the company, and it'll make sense, right?
Got you covered. Understand. So, Sheryl, what's your next question here? He just talked about verbal packaging and not using part names. What question will come to mind for you right now?
Mine's kind of a comment plus on top of that. As a female that does not have a clue what goes in an air conditioner, you push the little button and it works or it don't. I really like that idea. But when you're talking to these people, from what I'm understanding, you actually just tell them how things work. And then I see on the screen where Jerry's put up the systems. Is that the long range and how it works over time, or am I missing that?
Yeah. So that's a great question too, Sheryl. And with the verbal packaging, how we built it is each verbal packaging, how it's laid out is how things work. So, for instance, I'll just give you an example, as some customers don't know what a capacitor is on an outdoor condenser unit. It's basically a voltage surge protection system that is within your system. That's literally how it works. It's a voltage surge protector for your outdoor unit. So that's named inside of there instead of just saying capacitor. Because if somebody does a search on a capacitor, it's going to come up and it's going to say, hey, we got a component that $15 to $30, and then you might get a real avid disgruntled customer call back a day or two from now. So in a nutshell, that's why we labeled it that way. I even did some real homework on the chimney side, and Jerry was fastened by how I labeled that description, was complete exhaust combustion system renovation and some of the things. And that's just in a nutshell the system. So it's all in all, it's how the system works, and each line item has that in particular in relation to that, instead of just naming the part what we're doing. Like we're installing a 10-inch round liner, this and this, we're installing all this. It's just how it works and what it does, and it goes all into the verbal packaging of the system of it.
Right.
Jerry, can I take that one step farther?
Sure.
When you are doing this, and I know you're explaining it to the customer, is there any written thing that's ever given the customer that goes back over what you've told them?
Yeah, that's a good point. So sometimes we do get customers, though we'll present to them. We always read the top option, and then we say we do have other options. What should we do? Some customers look at it and they're like, well, can you just email me all those options? And honestly, that's 5 different options. So we try to trigger or change the customer. Well, which options are sticking out to you, so that we could email them to you if they didn't want to pick an option right on the spot. Because if statistically, we've learned if we send all 5 options to the customer, it's overwhelming. So we tried to pin it down to 1 or 2, so that they can have a better opportunity to, if their DM's not present or whatnot, so they can go over it. And then we try to set up that follow-up call to where they can actually be able to talk over it. Because if there's 5 of them, our percentages of that sale literally went down next to nothing, honestly. So that's how we do that. And we do go over with the customer when we're in front of them, when we present, and we have a presentation over the phone that is a little bit different than presenting in the home.
Okay. Sheryl, does that answer your question?
It does. I just know that I'm like Richard. I agree. 5 is way too many. But Jerry and I probably, like you said earlier, we need to know what we need, and that's what we need to get. But when you are dealing with other aspects of behavior, there's some people that they feel like they just have to make a decision between 2.
Yep. And so anyway, what we're talking about here, if I understand this right, we're putting this into a language that your customer can understand, and you've researched to give them this language, and this language is up in front of them, so they have this, again, I'm gonna call it a cheat sheet. They don't have to rely on their memory to go to there. So what you've devised here is a fix. And I just changed the slide. Richard was talking about 5 different proposals. And Richard, why don't you describe what we're looking at? It says platinum, gold, silver, bronze, and Band-Aid. Tell us what all these mean.
Yeah. So with each level that you have right there, option wise, we have a more of a warranty. And what I'm saying by that is a labor warranty. Customers love warranties. Some people don't. Some people really do. So before, we was not giving, we just whatever the manufacturer had or offered, right? So as a platinum, if you go out and you do something, it comes with a 2-year. As you go down lower and lower, gold is 18 months, silver, you can see 1 year, bronze is 6 months, a Band-Aid is 30 days. And so and we do have different ones that show where it doesn't say Band-Aid, it'll say basic. And in regards to that would be like a fireplace changeout. When you're trying to promote a change out of a factory built or a high efficiency, whatever, or an insert to a customer, there's not really a Band-Aid option for that. So we've changed that to where it would say basic. But you can see to where each one of them, you'll have a different type of unit you'll install. You might go with a platinum, it might be more of a high efficiency unit, and a basic or Band-Aid would be just fixing that specific one only that we need. Like, let's say we went and done some gas logs and the gas valve's bad, but the thermocouple and thermopile and all that pilot assembly is still good. But for how long, we do not know. So as you go up higher in the tier, if the customer goes up with a silver or vice versa, other things, we'll change. We'll have more wrench time, is what we like to say. It lets us be able to do more work there. We do more things to prevent semi-annually breakdowns. And for instance, on a reline, if we get a customer that goes with stuff that's higher, we put platinum would be, like an outside mountain hip and ridge cap and some other stuff for protection wise. And that's what it said in that verbiage that we talked about earlier. It has all that in each option.
Okay. So Richard, as you look at this, What's your data show? Do the majority go platinum, gold, silver, bronze, or band-aid, or as you call it, basic now?
Yeah, so it's cool that you asked that because we do use Service Titan, so I'm able to look and develop things within Service Titan where I can go and look at the statistics a lot more easier than before, to where I can see percentage wise of what people are buying more. And honestly, probably I'd say 30 to 50% right there in the middle at the silver. Platinum and gold probably 10 to 15%, and same thing on the other from band-aid to bronze, somewhere right in between there. So that's just statistically, a lot of people go with the middle of the road because a lot of people like that. They just say, well, I don't want the cheapest, so I don't want the expensive, so let's just go in the middle.
Yeah, let me give you, for instance, we're customers at A1 Garage Door. That's my buddy Tommy Mello. So
Hmm.
recently we had a garage door issue, and Tommy Mello uses a similar system on his garage door sales. So they had the platinum up here. That was the top level. And he said something. He said, well, this is going to last you 50 years. And I kind of cut up with him. I say, man, at my age, I'm hesitant to buy a dozen eggs. Okay. So I'm not really worried about 50 years from now. I'm worried about 10 to 20 years. Let's get real about it looking at my age. So from that, and that's the kind of things you got to be able to judge. Do you agree? People that are going to stay in their homes versus somebody that may be selling the home. And it's like Sheryl and myself, you've been to my home, we pretty well made the decision. This is where we're going to be. We're not looking at moving. We're not looking at selling our house. I don't know where we put all our stuff, but we're just, we're more interested in fixing things where they last us the rest of our lifetime. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because that's what having these options does. Because I'm not going to come to your house and ask you, hey, how much you want to spend on this repair, this and this. So what it does is it lets customers choose the option without us even asking those really hard questions. Well, what do you want to spend on this or this and this? It lets them actually specifically choose, because we don't know what type of customer we have. We don't know if we have a customer that wants all those bands and whistles or those extra add-on items, or we would just want a customer that just wants to get it just done and fixed and working. So when we present to that and give them those options, that solves that, Jerry. So, and it works out great for the guys because they're able to actually let them see firsthand and get bought in with it to where it's actually effective.
Got you. So, Sheryl, what's your next question?
Okay, you have not run this company through a recession, and I hope in a lot of the downtimes. So, we are at the point now we're seeing people hold back and hold more on their monies. Are you, at times, the old money still spends, but some of the younger one are holding back. Are you seeing people take less and less value, or is everybody still kind of clinging to the middle of the road?
Yeah, that's crazy you just asked that because one of my technicians, Tate's been with me a long time. He's gone on a few calls, and when he does, it doesn't happen until he gives the options. But when he gives the options to the customer, they basically open up to him and they say, hey, with everything going on right now, I'd really want to do this, but let's go ahead and go on this one, just because I don't, know what's going to happen tomorrow or this and this, and which is fine. It's better to leave with something than nothing, right? So, we have got some customers that have picked that Band-Aid or bronze, and they've told us to our face that they would pick a higher option, for instance, on a change out or for high back or chimney, whatever. And it's just it's something that has helped us to give uh, the customers to where we're not just going out there saying it's going to be $10,000 and then only give them that. They're like, well, I can't do that or this and this, but it brings up that literally to where they're actually having that bond, just getting that relationship built with the customer. Because a lot of customers, if we wasn't given options, we just gave them one price. They weren't opening up like that. It honestly, Cheryl, it was something that's really I've saw recently from what you're saying, because yes, I haven't been through all that yet before being in business, but thank God though too. But needless to say, with everything that's going on, it's been helpful to have options than leaving the job without nothing. And if a customer does get that, we do tell them, say, hey, if you'd like to get another go up higher later, we let that be able to happen if the customer does want to get a higher warranty or vice versa, you know.
Yeah. And you know, Richard, I see another advantage here, which is, and Sheryl kind of brought this up a while ago. This is not a matter of your guys having to do research for the proposal. What they are, this is a simple matter of they go to their iPads, they find the menu items that fit this particular case that they've uncovered through their service work or whichever they're out there for. Then they just click the button. And it's like, okay, they got to change out a fireplace. Click, change out fireplace, wood burning unit, whatever it is. And the price is there, bam, 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 that fast. It's not a matter of the customer has to wait for weeks on proposals. Am I correct on this?
You're exactly right, Jerry. It's really helped us to where we don't have a lot of jobs that are in service tight, and it's called on hold or paused because they haven't been able to finish out because they haven't produced an estimate, which is in regards that's been real beneficial. And we do have one other one too in there that because we don't have everything in the new flat rate on chimneys or whatnot. You're going to come see something. We have a generic task that's based off of material. And that one really helps whenever one of my techs had to use it yesterday. Whenever you go to a job that's not specifically in that menu pricing option, and so you have the capability to make an option there for the customer on the spot still, even though I don't have it built out within that. If you get what I'm saying, sir.
Yeah. So Richard, you've put a pile of time into this to get this working. Does everybody have to put this pile of time in to make this work? Or are the systems out there available now that can be, how long does it take a company to implement this menu? As I like the term menu pricing, you know this. I've often schooled you this flat rate pricing, I think menu pricing. When I look at this, I look at it the following way. You go into a high-end restaurant, okay? And if I go to a Brazilian restaurant, I've got one price and it's covering everything in there. Okay. It's covering my salad bar, my vegetables, and my choices of meat. If I go right down the street to Ruth Chris, I'm going to order my steak. Then I'm going to order my baked potato or my broccoli or my spinach or whatever I'm going to get with the steak. Each of those are going to be specific things. So that's why I like to call it menu pricing, because that's what you're doing. You're selecting the items off the menu that you want to fit you. That's basically what I see. Do you want the steak with or without baked potato? Bop, bop, bop. Platinum level includes dessert, baked potato, bop. You want just to get something to eat? Well, here's just the steak alone. That's what we're looking here. Am I correct?
Yeah, and a great example is you probably heard of a 10-in-1 tool where it has a Phillips, a flathead, a quarter, 5/16, all that together in one specific tool. If you bought all those out just on their own, a flathead, a Phillips head, a 1/4-inch nut driver, a 5/16, and all that, you're going to probably pay $30 to $40. Well, so with the multi-tool, that's a platinum option. You have it all within one device to where you could use on a daily basis. So you don't got to carry all that in your pocket. And that's considered a platinum. And sometimes a platinum's a lot better option because it's cheaper and you get better warranty than getting everything, just one by one. Right, Jerry?
That's exactly right. So Sheryl, what will be your next question? I mean, does this make sense to you? Because it's similar to when we go to a really nice restaurant. Wouldn't you agree?
It is, and I like it. I mean, I'm a complex, simple person. That keep it simple, stupid is the boat that I ride on. So this just makes it so much easier for me. I mean, I'm technically oriented. I came up in construction, but just tell me what I need and go on. And, I know when I heard Richard talking about the pieces that go in there, and I know what pieces go in the chimney. I know all the above, but I'd just rather not hear about it. I'd rather I like this menu thing. Just let me pick and choose my entree of today.
Yeah. And Richard, let me share with you, and you're kind of aware of this, what happened in our personal lives earlier this week. We were actually having a SWAT meeting for a close client. We were having it here in our pool house on Tuesday of this, I believe it was Tuesday of this week. And what happened was we started, and the pool house started getting warm. And I just moved it to another area of the house. And I called the guy, the company that had been doing my HVAC work. And I said, hey, come out, check all of my systems out. I've got 3 different HVAC systems, one for the pool house, one upstairs, one downstairs, and just check them all out. So the guy comes out there, he looks at them, and I told him, wash the coils, whatever, the stuff you do on an annual basis to keep everything working. I got furnaces, some places have package units. So he goes out to the pool house and he comes back in. And he said, well, it looks like you got a Freon leak. Okay. What do we need to do? I'm not an HVAC guy. I know what Freon is. I know how it works. He says, well, I can do this or this. He said, well, I can put it in. We'll see if it holds up or whatever. I said, well, let's go ahead. Tell me how much the Freon is. He told me how much it was. And it's like, boy, that stuff went up a lot, right? So it's like $80 a pound or $80 a gallon. I don't even know how you measure it, Richard. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, he goes out. And when he's got it opened up, he opens up the side of the unit. And Richard, I can see, and I even sent you the picture, said, tell me, this looks pretty bad. I'm not an HVAC, but I could see the corrosion. I could see that this system is probably about gone. It's 21 years old. But then comes the key question. Well, how much does it cost to get a new one? Now, this is a gas pack. I said, I'd like to know how much is it going to replace another package unit or to put a heat pump in here? And here's the answer. You ready?
Yeah.
Well, the owner's on vacation. He'll be back in about a week. Now, is that a good answer when you have the opportunity? If that guy should have known and could have clicked on there and he could have said, well, Jerry, a gas pack's going to be 4,100, just pulling his numbers out of head. A gas pack replacement is going to be 4,100. And if you go with a heat pump, it's probably going to be about 5,500. And those may be true figures. I don't know, Richard, whenever I say this. But is that where this comes into play, that they know this stuff right then? If it's as simple as a capacitor or a blower motor, they know the answers, right?
Yeah. And that was exactly what you said. That's the golden question we always want a customer to say. We always will lead with a repair option. But with that being said, if we go to a house like you had and you had a Freon leak, we're always going to have a repair page for that to add Freon, but we do options. It's not just off of pounds. It's either a small leak, a large leak, or whatever. But we want to have the customer say, well, how much is a new unit then? If the prices are this much, and we can go into a little bit, but you understand the Freon phase out and whatnot. And when you called me, I was able to pull up on my phone within 15 seconds and give you 5 options like that. And I was able to tell you what the basic was at my fingertips, just like that. And that's what it does, because how long are you going to wait, Jerry? You're a high D. You're not going to wait very long for somebody to come back from a vacation. If you're ready to buy, you're motivated to buy right now. You're not going to wait a whole nother week for me to come give you an estimate, because then in your head, you're going to think, well, it just took a week to get the price for an estimate. How long is it going to take for you to install it, right?
Yeah.
So I've been on the phone calling another HVAC. Jerry did better than I did.
Well, if it had been
knew him.
Right. Plus, if it had been the main house, the upper level where we live, no offense, I can't wait. It's hot down here. Okay. I'm not going to wait a week for somebody to give me a quote. I would have been on the phone with somebody else. Hey, I got a 3.5 ton. I need this replaced. Here's a picture of it. How much is it? When can you put it in? We went through that with a water heater that turned into a really big joke a while back, because the water heater went out on a Sunday. Okay. And when the water heater went out on a Sunday, I got to go out of town, Richard. In fact, I might have been coming to your place. I don't even remember where I was going. But, leaving here with that woman there with no hot water would not be a good career move. Would you agree?
Good luck.
Can I tell that story, Jerry, while we're on here? Some of the people on here might like this.
What's that?
The water heater.
The water heater?
on top of
Yeah,
the.
like I said, trying to find somebody on Sundays. Finally found a guy. He said, I can replace the water heater today. I said,
Meet me
great.
at the hardware store.
I told him I needed a 60-gallon V vent, natural vent, hot water heater, natural gas. Okay. He says, I'll do it for $800. Come do it, brother. Let's do it. Okay. So then later that day, he calls, says, do you have a truck we can haul the water heater in? Like, no, you don't have a truck? Well, no. He said, don't worry, I'll get it covered. Then he calls me a little later. Can you meet me at Lowe's and pay for the water heater? Okay, now again, it's Sunday afternoon, about 3 o'clock at this point. It's like, say what? Yeah. So I go meet the guy at Lowe's, Richard. I don't know if I ever told you this story,
Yeah.
but I meet him at the hot water section of a Lowe's store. We go back there, pick out the one, take it through the front. I pay for that thing. He said, well, I'll put it on my truck. I said, I'll go help. He said, no, I got it. I said, no, man, that water heater ain't getting out of my sight. So I followed him out. He was driving a Honda, took that water heater, put it up on top of the car, strapped it down with some ratchet straps. It's like, dude, you got to be kidding me. And he drove that thing all the way to my house. I can remember keeping him in sight all the way. Like I could just see my water heater gone. But that's what that's desperation. And what you're doing, and from the heat and air side, yeah, it's a little different from chimneys. When the water heater's out, I got to have relief today. I got to have relief today. You know that from the heat and air side. We were just
Mhm.
talking about the broadcast of where you had somebody that had to have their system replaced and it got replaced in the middle of the night, right?
Yep.
And that's why you see a lot of large companies now, they're actually running 2 shifts. I know Morris Jenkins here locally. They run a pile of people and they're running 2 shifts. So, but anyway, Sheryl, what else would you like to know about flat pricing? Is this pretty well given you the story today?
The only thing I would like to know is how can you get it into every surface tech's hands so we don't have to deal with the fiasco like we did the
Yeah.
other day.
So how do you get it in? Not it's going to take people like Richard. And also, when you look, I have added 2 comments into here. One is a website. If you are wanting a demonstration, Richard works as a company called the New Flat Rate Pricing. And this was not intended to be a sales presentation for that company. This was intended to be information. But if you want to go and get a demo of how that works, there is a link then there. It's at www.thenewflatrate.com/Richard. And if you go to that link, you will see on there, it says, if you're a friend of Richard's in the chimney business, click here for your free demo. Also, you can see Richard's email address on the screen, and I've actually put the email address in the comments. So, Richard, if what kind are you? Can you handle questions from people? Does that bother you to get an email wanting to know about how to do? Again, I'm not going to call it flat rate. You know, my words are menu pricing. But are you open to taking those calls from people?
No, it's fine. Yeah, I've done taking calls and talked to some other people with Skip that you know of and Bart, and some other chimney people. And needless to say, it's not hurting me at all. I love helping and building things, and I do have a techie side. So like what you said, Jerry, I like working systems and helping people develop and fix things if needed. And one thing too, I didn't answer your question. You asked how long does it take for somebody that wants to get with it, and the onboarding and everything now does not take as long as it did before. I would say because we've already had a beta testing and done that with some groups, and but now if you sign up and let's say everything goes, I would say probably a month, or so, month and a half. But it can be sooner because what we do is we in the new flat rate they have an admin side where you can put all your pricing in there. You don't you somebody in Washington, D.C. can't use the pricing that I have here in Oklahoma. So you have where you put in your labor rate, your man hour, your price markup for material, and your sales tax. There's all kinds of things you add in there. If you get a company that literally raises, hey, I got to have a 7% markup, you can go in there and change it how you want and get it, respectively pretty easily. It's right at your fingertips. I go in there and change mine and add stuff to mine even on specific just tasks instead of doing it as a company as a whole for each single option.
So let me ask you a couple questions, Richard. Give me these two in, yes or no. Is this a way that a company can raise its profits?
Yeah, it's raised mine over 30%, maybe more than that now.
Is this a way that you can get higher closure on sales?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is this a way to get your proposals done in the field while the technician is at the home?
Yes.
Is this a way to save you having to do and deal with phone calls from your technicians about what does it cost to do this or that or this task or that? Does it save those kind of calls?
Hardly get those calls anymore now, Jerry, to be honest. I used to be on the phone the whole time. That's all I did. And
So what this does, folks, if you're watching, I'm going to show you exactly what this system will take away from you. Richard, those are handcuffs. These are my daddy's handcuffs when he was a policeman back in the 1950s and 60s. These are the real thing, okay? And these are when they didn't use plastic straps. They clamped down on you. But a system such as this will serve to remove those handcuffs from you as a manager. Would that be correct?
oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, man, I think you've done an excellent job. Sheryl, do you have any other questions for Richard today on here?
I do not. And I just want to thank him for being on here. And I hope everybody got what you're talking about, because I think it can help a lot of people.
Yep, I do too. So if you want more information about the menu pricing, the flat rate pricing, you've got two ways you can go from here. There's two ways you can go from here. And that is you can email Richard. Richard will be glad to set up a time to call. I did put his phone number. Please have the courtesy to set up a call with him and have the conversation with him there. And you've also got a link to go to the flat rate pricing where you can do a demo. If you go to that link, it will say if you're a friend of Richard's from there. And our friend Chuck Roydhouse, he just said, Richard, this is very well presented and informative, and thank me and Sheryl. And he said, Sheryl, the Queen is rocking in purple today. Happy 4th of July. How about that? I don't know if you wore purple in honor of Chuck today or what, because Rich, I really want to congratulate Chuck, who's on here, because Chuck just completed, we actually pushed Chuck a little bit, and he just completed his training as a coach at Ziegler. So we're very proud of Chuck of what he's done this week. So I just want to let people know that. And that was it's just like this attempt. So I think you've impressed Chuck with this, and he'll probably be sharing this with others, and we'll be sharing this out on our social media. So brother, I appreciate the heck out of you being here today with us, taking the time out of your busy schedule. And again, this has been the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, and we're here every week, every Friday, 12 noon Eastern time, and it's sponsored by the CBC Success Group. We hope you'll join us next week, because next week we're going to have a different kind of guest on next week, Richard, because what I have is I've actually have one of Tommy Mello's technicians that's going to be on next week. And what I want him to tell us is, what is it about the Tommy Mello A1 garage door culture that draws people in? So often we have business owners just like you today. It's kind of interesting if we get the technicians on and they tell their side of this. But like you said, which was I forget the technician's name up at the training the other week that had been there a couple months. What was his name? Marshall stood up in front of the class that I did just a couple weeks ago. I had Richard's whole crew up in Pennsylvania, and he was explaining the flat rate pricing, the menu pricing to the room. And this was a guy with very limited experience that had conquered this and was making sales in the field already using this system. So I highly encourage you, get the information on this, put it to work for your company, and move on, because it's going to help you get where we always stress, which is You want to make sure and live those dreams that you have in business. And Richard's a fine example of that. Richard, it's okay, I'm going to share. Richard just bought a piece of land. He's getting ready to build a completely new facility out there in the Tulsa, Oklahoma market, and is really doing a knock-up job out there. So again, Richard, appreciate it. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, sponsored by